Hey y'all. So we're going to shore out this week, tying into where we're going to go in December, because it's December already. That's Christmas. I'll get there. We'll all get there, right? We'll actually get there at the same time. So God has now inserted his name into Abraham and Sarah's name. They bear his name. And as a reminder of the note we read yesterday, that God's name is his self-revelation. What he is known as, what he is called, that is who he has been and who he is. Self-revelation. The name signifies the active presence of the person in the fullness of the revealed character. Putting a nice little bow on this. So when we read back in Genesis 17, and God establishes circumcision as the covenant and the sign that would be forever the symbol of God's people. He would know that they were God's people. They would know they were God's people. This is, I love all the threads that God sticks in the Bible. But from 1 Samuel 17, this is why David was so confident against Goliath. In the very beginning, before he said, I've killed a lion, I've killed a bear, and I'll do the same thing to Goliath. If you go to 1 Samuel 17, I'm telling you, this cutting covenant with God and him inserting his name, his presence, his attributes and character, his godness into Abraham's name, so Abraham now bearing the name of God, changed everything. So David says in 1 Samuel 17:26, he says, and David said to the men standing by him, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? His question is, for who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? So in that one statement, he has identified that this uncircumcised Philistine is not in covenant with God, but Israel is God's covenant people. And when you know that you are his and he is yours, that giant, that uncircumcised Philistine is nothing. Can we just take a moment and be so grateful that God is with us and for us? Go back to that 2 Thessalonians 1:16. It says, it is a fair decision, since it is a righteous thing with God to repay with distress and affliction those who distress and afflict you. You are in covenant with God. And Satan has absolutely deceived us that when hard things come and the fight or the battle presents itself, that it's from God. No, the Philistine was not from God. He was opposing the armies of the living God. That's what David says. He doesn't say, well, God put this giant in our way. He said, this is an uncircumcised Philistine who is not in covenant with God. How dare he defy the armies of the living God? If you are unsure, if a problem you are facing, is from God, which God doesn't send us problems, I'm going to tell you that you got questions about that, you want to talk about it, that's another subject for another day, but let me put that right in here. God does not send you trouble. He is not the author of chaos and confusion. He is the God of peace and the giver of good and only good gifts. That's what James tells us. But all David had to do was look at Goliath, know who that giant was, and he knew that God was not with him. He was not God's people. He was not in covenant with God. So David had right and confidence in defeating Goliath. Goliath had no right where he was. That's probably my favorite verse in not Genesis, 1 Samuel 17. Now I can preach David and Goliath. It said, the Philistines gathered their armies for battle and were assembled at Socoh, which belonged to Judah. That very first piece tells us that the enemy gathered in territory that did not belong to them. Recognize the enemy and rely on your covenant. Recognize your enemy and rely on your covenant. Now, next week, we're going to talk about some more names of God leading us up into Christmas. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. And what does the name of God mean? It's how he reveals himself. Oh, I'm excited. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.